Thank you, John. Thank you very much, and very good morning to all of you. Today's conference is about the Mediterranean, and one cannot discuss the Mediterranean without referring to the blue ocean economy. In keeping with our conference, I will focus in a large part on the Mediterranean, but I first want to state a genuine fact that there can be no sustainable blue economy without good ocean governance, and that there can be no good ocean governance without a sustainable blue economy. And the European Commission is totally committed to this fact. My work this week exactly confirms what I'm saying. On Monday and Tuesday, I was in Turkey discussing fishing in the Mediterranean and in the Black Sea, and also discussing sustainable tourism, particularly cruise development. And I discussed the same topics in Algeria the week before. On Wednesday, I had the opportunity to launch our European Union Arctic communication with the EU High Representative Federica Mogherini. This reference sustainable development, tackling climate change and international cooperation in the Arctic. Later that day, I launched our Mediterranean fishing strategy. And yesterday, I signed an agreement with Canada so that together we can jointly tackle illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. So you can see that my work and that of my services illustrates our efforts to ensure a fair, a transparent, and a respect for internationally agreed rules for blue growth through good ocean governance. Blue growth and ocean governance go hand in hand. Economic opportunities are integrated with environmental responsibilities. Sound ocean governance is based on conserving and sustainably using our oceans, seas, and maritime resources. It keeps our oceans and our seas healthy for future generations. And this is not just an environmental imperative, it is also making a lot of economic sense. So oceans have a key role as climate regulators, as a source of food, and as an engine for economic growth. In Europe alone, the blue economy already provides 5 million jobs, and it contributes around 550 billion euros to our economy. Yesterday, we had the OECD report on ocean economy, and which stated that the economy in 2010 totaled 1.5 trillion, and it is expected to double up to 3 trillion by the year 2030. So one can see the opportunities that lie in our oceans. Instead of leaving home to seek opportunities elsewhere, new opportunities in the blue economy can also give young unemployed the chance to stay and build a future for themselves in their own country. And today, I want to focus on how we can make the most of this potential. How do we create the conditions for success? We already have many instruments, old and new, to keep our oceans healthy. And last year, the United Nations adopted a set of sustainable development goals, including a particular sustainable development goal, particularly SDG 14, on the oceans, seas, and maritime resources. However, our oceans are under pressure. Our oceans are under a lot of pressure. For instance, if current trends continue, they will soon contain 1 ton of marine litter for every 3 tons of fish. And we're not looking at some distant future, but in less than 10 years from now. If we do this right, and if we implement the SDG goals, we can create conditions that lead to jobs and economic growth, not only in the traditional areas of the blue economy like fisheries, which can become more sustainable, but more so in other areas such as aquaculture, ocean energy, ecotourism, or blue biotech. Last year, we held an international public consultation, and nearly all the respondents told us that present ocean governance is not effective enough. We do not have all the right instruments. For example, there are still legal gaps to fill in areas beyond national jurisdiction, areas where everyone is responsible and where no one is responsible. Implementation and coordination are still insufficient and inefficient. We will be taking the results of this consultation into 2017 when the European Union hosts for the first time the Our Ocean Summit. So how does all this apply to the Mediterranean? 1/3 of international tourists head for the Mediterranean each and every year. The Mediterranean cruise industry is the second largest globally. And of course, there is the fisheries and the aquaculture sectors. As I already mentioned, 2 days ago, I was discussing with ministers from around the Mediterranean how we could restore the fish stocks in the region. Many of these stocks are seriously being depleted, and many of them are stocks shared between countries. So I invited all the Mediterranean fisheries ministries to Brussels. I asked them what we could do together to ensure that Mediterranean fishermen have a guaranteed future. Ensuring the economic viability of the fishing sector through rebuilding fish stocks is only one of the many challenges that we have in the Mediterranean Sea. Politically unstable, economically uncertain, the ongoing refugee crisis, all these, as was already mentioned by John earlier on, can be more pressing. But for the time being, we will discuss fisheries, or rather, the precarious situation of fisheries in the Med. More than 90% of the assessed Mediterranean fish stocks are heavily overfished, at times even up to 6 times the mortality limit. Nearly 50% of marine biodiversity has been strongly and negatively affected since 1970. However, there is still some hope. Only if we start managing better our fish stocks, and only if we start now. We can provide better prospects for the existing fishermen and for the many young people desperately looking for work. We can give hope that our small-scale fishermen can once again become thriving SMEs, the engine of our economy. In the Med, where international waters begin relatively close to the shores of many countries, the link between good ocean governance and blue economic growth is very obvious. And because of that, cooperation between the European Union and non-EU partners is essential. It is crucial. Let me share 4 examples of how the European Union is doing this in the Mediterranean. The first is through the Union for the Mediterranean, which regularly brings together ministers from around the sea basin. In November, together with the Jordanian co-presidency, I invited ministers to meet in Brussels to discuss the blue economy, the first meeting of this kind. We agreed that boosting the blue economy can also boost the stability of the region. And we committed to working together to improve maritime governance and to stimulate jobs, innovation, and investment in key maritime sectors. Work is well underway, and we are planning a follow-up conference for 2018. Secondly, we are exploring the prospect of developing a maritime strategy for the Western Mediterranean. This would initially involve 5 EU member states and 5 countries from the Mediterranean's southern rim. It would concentrate on marine research and innovation. Third, in the Mediterranean, the Barcelona Convention is celebrating its 40th anniversary. The Barcelona Convention plays a key role in the implementation of the EU's Maritime Strategy Framework Directive. by addressing multiple pressing environmental problems. This work helps safeguard important economic sectors, notably tourism as well as commercial and recreational fishing. Finally, we already have a promising macro-regional strategy in place in the Adriatic and the Ionian region. Again, this strategy involves both EU member states as well as a number of non-EU member states. All of these four examples again illustrate how blue growth and ocean governance have to go hand in hand. We are also working excellently with the General Fisheries Commission of the Mediterranean and with FAO. We have had an excellent conference in Catania, Sicily, and strategy sessions in Rome this spring. Colleagues, good ocean governance will make our oceans healthier, but if we want the blue economy to flourish, we also need to make our waters safer and secure. And that is why the European Union adopted a maritime security strategy in 2014. We want to encourage different maritime sectors to collaborate together. Cooperation will allow us to address multifaceted challenges. For example, we know that human trafficking and illegal fishing in the Mediterranean very often involve the same criminal actors. So, we are promising better cooperation between coast guards and navies, between existing agencies for fisheries control, maritime safety, and border control. To conclude, when it comes to the blue economy in the Mediterranean, we all share the same objectives: achieving sustainable fisheries, restoring marine ecosystems, and creating blue growth and jobs. Sound ocean governance and blue economic growth will help us achieve this. But I hope I have made it clear that there is one vital ingredient: good cooperation, especially between member states and non-member states of the region. We in the European Union can look back on 60 years of dialogue and cooperation, and we have learned one thing: working together makes us stronger and more effective. And that, for me, is the leader of good leadership for the Mediterranean. Thank you, and I hope you have a fruitful session. Thank you very much.